Each episode we will take a look at another zone in the game. You decided that we should take a look at Tirisfal Glades next, and that's exactly what we will do now. In the ruins of Lordaeron, you can hear whispers and other noises if you turn on your in-game sounds. There are multiple sound effects that mimic the events of Warcraft 3 when Arthas returned to Lordaeron to kill his own father. You can hear the bells, the cheers, and finally the voices of Arthas and King Tyrannos. You can also still see the spot where the bloody crown fell on the ground, and behind the throne room you can find King Tyrannos' grave. Which, by the way, does not add up. The plaque on the grave says, "Here lies King Tyrannos, yada yada yada." However, Arthas killed Uther to take the urn with his father's ashes to then turn it into Kel'Thuzad's phylactery and make his way to the Sunwell. And I seriously doubt that he returned to bury his father properly, so something is not right here. When you make your way a bit further to the east, you can find another grave, the grave of Invincible, Arthur's former steed, which died when he was still young and got resurrected by him into undeath, to eventually become a mount that can drop from the Lich King in Icecorn Citadel. The gravestone reads, "Invincible, beloved steed of Arthur's Manifold, loyal and great of heart in life, may you find peace in death. Pure steams and green pastures, devoted friend." Further in the north, next to the Scarlet Monastery, you can find a destroyed tower with 3 NPCs. One of them is High Priest Benedictus Voss, the father of Lillian Voss. Another of them, the Scarlet Bodyguard, has a chance of 0.5% to drop the standard issue shield, a shield of the Scarlet Crusade. Even though there is an HD version of it available in the Mythic Sepulchre of the first ones, this shield feels a lot more like old school Scarlet Crusade and can be used for some great transmogs. On Brightwater Lake there is an island with the NPC Gunther Arcanus standing around. In vanilla there was a questline in which you learned that he broke free from Lich King's control long before anyone else, all by himself. He was very suspicious of anyone else and isolated himself on the island, and he was seen as so powerful that people would call him a Lich. At the end of the questline you actually got him back into contact with other Forsakens, but Blizzard hasn't done anything with his character ever since. Which is a shame because he is such an interesting character. And now he's just standing around here doing absolutely nothing. Tirisfal got its name because the Titan Keeper Tyr has fallen there, fighting minions of the old god Yogg-Saron. Tyr's grave can be found in the lake near the Whispering Forest in the very west of the zone. Inside the tomb, arms warriors would find the artifact weapon Stormcar the Warbreaker, Holy Paladins would get the Silver Hand, Tyr's former hammer, and Shadow Priests would find Xal'atath, Blade of the Black Empire. Since Xal'atath became kinda important in the last few expansions, this is some pretty relevant stuff for a starting zone. From Tyr's Fall they would name it Tirisfal eventually, and the Paladins of a Silver Hand got the symbol because the Titan Keeper Tyr replaced one of his hands with a silver hand after losing it, fighting the giant dragon Galakrond. Also, the Kingdom of Lordaeron was named after a human named Lordain, which was one of the closest allies of Thoradin, the first human king. Close to the grave, inside the Whispering Forest, you can find a circle of mushrooms. Over time, up to 7 fairy drakes will appear around the circle, and when all 7 have spawned, they will meet and perform some kind of ritual. During this ritual, a very calm music will play that is completely out of place for this area. West of Bwyll you can find the rare mob Lost Soul. This mob has the appearance of a banshee and can be found at multiple spots at once, very close to each other. This is the only case in the game where a rare mob can appear multiple times, and canonically the only rare mob that is just a random NPC instead of a named character. There are 2 battles for Lordaeron in World of Warcraft. First we had the battle for the Undercity in Wrath of the Lich King, where on the Horde side, Thrall, Sylvanas and the player character would lay siege on the city and face the traitor Very Malphas, while on the Alliance side, King Varian, Lady Jaina and the player character would go through the sewers and face High Apothecary Putris. Then there was the siege of Lordaeron at the beginning of Battle for Azeroth, which would end with the entirety of the capital being bombed with plague and lost. In that siege, King Anduin and a handful of other characters make their way to the throne room of Lordaeron, and it highly resembles the cinematic of Warcraft 3, where Arthas kills his father. During the last siege of Lordaeron, the Zeppelin towers got destroyed. Ever since, they are simply portals over to Undercity, which you can enter from Orgrimmar, Wormgall Basin or the Howling Fjord. When talking to Zidormi and going back to the old version of the zone, the towers are still standing, but portals replace the Zeppelins. During the Shadowlands expansion, a questline was added where player characters would help to recover the city of Lordaeron and remove the plague around it. In that questline, a new council of Forsaken leaders is being formed. Lillian Voss, Kalia Menethil, the sister of Arthas and rightful heir to Lordaeron, Deathstalker Commander Belmont, Dark Ranger Velonawa and Apothecary Faranil. Doing this questline gives hunters a Dark Ranger transmog set and unlocks the Dark Ranger customization option for Blood Elves, Night Elves and Void Elves. The Scarlet Monastery is a dungeon in the northeast of Tirisfal Glades. This dungeon used to be split into 4 dungeons at first: the Graveyard, Library, Armory and Cathedral. In Mists of Pandaria, these dungeons were put together into 2 dungeons instead, the Scarlet Halls and the Scarlet Monastery. If you have a Scarlet Key, you can still enter the old versions by clicking on the key at the entrance. Scarlet Keys can drop during the Hell's End event for the Headless Horseman. This fight also takes place inside the monastery at the Graveyard. Players who have access to the old version also can get the Scarlet Key from a box at the end of the Library dungeon. This item can be sold and bought on the auction house. At the end of a Scarlet Halls dungeon on heroic difficulty, mages can pick up a book from a shelf, which teaches them the old teleport to Dalaran. This teleport puts them into the air above the Dalaran crater in Hillsred Foothills, where you would die if you can't negate the fall damage. After learning this spell, you can also learn a portal to this location by buying a book in Dalaran above Northwind. In the Armory, you could get your hands on the two-handed axe Ravager, which was famous for its blade storm proc. During Wrath of the Lich King, when Fury warriors were first able to use 2 two-handed weapons, some warriors found the Ravager and equipped it for the offhand, since the damage of a proc would come from the main-hand weapon. This way, they could deal some pretty good damage in heavy boss fights. If you were able to get your hands on the corrupted Ashbringer during vanilla, you could enter the Cathedral dungeon and have a unique event play out, where all the NPCs would turn friendly and kneel down in front of you. Also, at the final boss, the spirit of Alexandros Morgwain would be summoned to take revenge on his son, who killed him with his own blade. During the events of Legion, Death Knights would return to the Cathedral and resurrect Sally Whitemane as one of the 4 horsemen. And for someone who was so devoted to cleansing the world from the undead, she accepts her fate pretty quickly. In the World of Warcraft cinematic trailer, you can see the Forsaken Warlock summoning Infernals. The windmills you can see in the background are the Agamand Mills, which can be found in the north of the zone. Tirisfal Glades was the final starting zone created by the developers. The Forsaken were added simply to add a Horde race which starts in the Eastern Kingdoms, as a parallel to the Night Elves being the only Alliance race in Kalimdor. Let's be honest, Tirisfal Glades is a great zone. The dark atmosphere fits perfectly into this ruined kingdom overrun by the undead. The Scarlet Crusade is a great enemy to the Forsaken, and walking through the old throne room for the first time, only to find a giant city of the undead in the underground, that was such a great moment back in the days. But what zone should I talk about next? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video and perhaps learned something new. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel, and if you want early access to the videos, you can support me big time by becoming a channel member. Steffi Budde and Michelle von Uttrup just became 1-year members. Thanks for the great support and shout out to the others as well. Until next time, see ya!